Greetings, YouTube. One of my subscribers, Romaine, asked me about dragons. How have I used them in the past, and how would I use them in the present? So when I started gaming back in 1978, we used dragons pretty much right out of the book. You know, the whole chromatic spectrum of dragons, because that's just what you did. No one really questioned it. Over time, I evolved and started using unique dragons in first edition. I think there may have been an article in Dragon Magazine or somewhere I read that was all about rolling up unique dragons, so I used that as a basis to work from. And I created unique dragons for whatever particular reason or purpose I needed. And, you know, that was fairly entertaining. And then along came second edition, and I pretty much fell back onto the whole chromatic spectrum. Though I didn't use a lot of dragons in second edition, they were used fairly sparingly. We did have one major NPC, a major NPC. She was the patron of the adventuring party, and she was in fact a silver dragon, though I'm not sure every player in the game actually knew that she was a silver dragon, because they knew her as an elven female, and that is how she presented herself to the world. But there were numerous clues that she was more than she seemed, and I know that at least two of the players in the group did figure it out eventually. And then third edition rolled around, and I pretty much went back to the old spectrum, you know, chromatic spectrum again, because a lot of the third edition system was tied into there being dragons of different colors and different metallic types. And I didn't use dragons a whole lot in third edition. Just the campaign didn't tend to fall in that direction, I guess. And I didn't really use a lot of low-level dragons. I tended to use those as fairly large baddies. They did have one memorable encounter with a dragon, though. I believe... Actually, I can't remember the name of the dragon, to tell you the truth. It was a black dragon. Now, what was interesting about this particular black dragon is that the dragon was insane. The dragon was convinced it was a halfling. It spotted the fact that there was a halfling in the adventure party, and it snuck into camp while they were set up at night, sneaking through the forest. A full-size black dragon. It didn't sneak all that well. And he spoke directly to the halfling in the party as a fellow compatriot, so happy to see one of his own. And as long as you didn't burst this particular dragon's bubble, everything was fine. If you pointed out that he was a dragon, that's when, like, the breath weapons and the spells started flying everywhere. But the party, being smart and realizing that the dragon was off its rocker, didn't burst the dragon's bubble, played along with the dragon. The dragon was there to give some information to the party that the party needed, and then the dragon parted ways. It was quite entertaining. I played it for laughs, of course. And I've been thinking about dragons since then, and a couple of things I've been playing with for years now in my head. And I think if I were to take dragons now, I would have there be 5 dragon breeds: flame, cold, electric, acid, sonic. Their appearance would vary greatly. Those are the only 5 types of dragons there are. But there would be several themes. For example, the flame dragons would have some kind of either reddish color or flame theme. Though, for example, it could be a completely black dragon with, like, hot rods dragon flames patterns on its body, like tattoos. Cold, they're gonna have some kind of white frosty theme, but not necessarily, or bluish theme, but not necessarily really obvious. Electrics are gonna be some kind of metallic, probably, but it could be metallic of another color, you know, it could be a red with a metallic hue, that kind of thing. And we're taking a different biological take on the dragons. All the dragons would be hermaphrodites. having both fully functional male and female reproductive organs. They are capable of producing unfertilized eggs, and out of an unfertilized egg hatches 4 to 6 kobolds, who are fiercely loyal to their parent, who are themselves almost always sterile. There are rare exceptions, and out of those rare exceptions, a mad kobold gathered up the ones in his species that were potentially fertile, worked his magic, and they became a species of to their own. So the standard race of kobolds are unaffiliated kobolds, whereas the ones that the dragons are producing are affiliated with a particular parent. And a dragon, depending on their age, could have quite a few kobolds, and replacing them on a regular basis, because kobolds aren't particularly long-lived, while dragons are. Also, the draconic language has no gender pronouns in it, and when they have to be addressed in common, they tend to use ki or kur, and I'm stealing that wholeheartedly from the community of the real world, of people who are transgendered or pangendered. In addition, their god is true neutral, single deity, Uno, and is only concerned with dragons. If you don't worship dragons, and you are not a dragon, and you are not threatening dragons, the dragon god really doesn't care about you. But if you start mucking around in dragon business, then the dragon god cares a whole lot. And again, genderless. Legends saying that the dragon god actually lays, quote unquote, unfertile eggs that then hatch into much more powerful beings than kobolds. And if the dragons mate, they produce fertilized eggs, which produce a single offspring, which would then be of the breath type of the parent, the one bearing the egg, though there may be some color variations or appearance in structure, because the dragons will have a different look from one to the other. There'll be variations, in scale patterns and horns and things like that, wing sizes and shapes and frills, and the variety you find in any kind of divergent species of a very mutagenic nature, and this is what dragons are in a very fantastical manner, I suppose. So it's a really significant departure from how dragons are seen in most fantasy games. So hermaphrodite dragons that have slavish kobold minions that do not adhere to the chromatic or the metallic spectrum. There is no Tiamat and Behemoth heading face against each other, an eternal struggle. So it's a little more subtle political structure, and the dragons can be of any alignment. So you could have fire-breathing dragons that are of any alignment, though many of them tend to be in the fairly neutral zone, because they're really concerned more than anything about dragons and themselves. There are a lot of chaotic neutral dragons, very self-centered species. The dragons are. They're pretty much of the opinion that, what have you done for me today, is an attitude that most dragons would take. So that's what I've been playing with the idea in my head. The next opportunity I have to use dragons, that's what I might be doing with them. So I thought I'd throw this out to my viewers and ask them, what have you done with dragons? Have you done things differently in the past than you are now? How have your attitudes about dragons evolved over time? For those of the viewers out there who have been around as long as I have you changed from 1st edition, 2nd edition, 3rd edition, 4th edition, and then the potential next coming out in the near future? How have your attitudes about dragons changed? I'm interested in knowing.